The sun had already disappeared when my boat stopped beside an old, broken riverbank. The evening was strangely quiet. On the roof of my boat, the boatman was praying. His silhouette stood against the fading western sky, perfectly still, while the river slowly changed color beneath him. Gold became gray. Gray became silver. And then the last traces of daylight disappeared into darkness. I stepped onto the riverbank. In front of me stood a huge abandoned mansion. Its windows were broken. Its balcony was falling apart. Tree roots had pushed their way through the old stone steps. The entire house looked as if it had been forgotten by the world. I was sitting there alone when I suddenly heard a voice behind me. "Where did you come from, sir?" I turned around. A thin, sickly-looking man was standing there. He was the local schoolteacher. His face was pale, his body almost painfully thin, and his eyes looked unusually large and bright beneath his bald forehead. There was something unsettling about him. He reminded me of an old sailor from one of those strange English ghost stories. He looked at the abandoned mansion. Then he looked at me. "You are staying here tonight?" I smiled. "I haven't decided yet." He stared at the house. "People don't usually come here after sunset." "Why?" He hesitated. Then he said, "Because of what happened here 15 years ago." That got my attention. "What happened?" The schoolteacher looked toward the mansion. "Do you really want to hear the story?" I nodded. He sat beside me, and then he began. 15 years ago, this house belonged to a wealthy businessman named Fanabushan. Fanabushan was a gentle man. He had money, education, good manners, and above all, he loved his wife. His wife's name was Manamalika. She was beautiful, but there was something unusual about her. She loved jewelry more than anything else in the world. Gold necklaces, diamond earrings, bangles, rings, silk clothes, perfume bottles, anything beautiful that could be owned and displayed. Whenever Fanabushan brought home a new piece of jewelry, Manamalika's face would light up. But when he tried to buy something for himself, she hardly cared. Fanabushan never complained. He believed that giving his wife beautiful things was simply another way of showing his love. He bought her jewelry whenever he could, and slowly her collection became enormous. Every piece was carefully wrapped and stored. Manamalika treated those jewels almost like living creatures. She touched them, counted them, polished them, checked them again and again. But she never seemed satisfied. There was always another necklace she wanted, another bracelet, another pair of earrings, another ornament. Fanabushan loved her enough to keep giving, but he never realized that the more jewelry she received, the more she became afraid of losing it. Then one year, Fanabushan's business began to suffer. The market turned against him. Money became difficult to obtain. His creditors began demanding payment. For the first time in his life, he needed help. One evening, he went to Manamalika. "Moni," he said gently, "I need some money." She looked up. "How much?" He told her. Then he added, "You have so many ornaments. If you could lend me some of them, I could sell them temporarily and save the business." Manamalika's face changed. She immediately understood what he meant. He wasn't asking for money. He was asking for her jewelry, her precious jewelry. the things she had spent years collecting. "No," she said. Fanabushan was surprised. "Moni, I'm not asking you to give them away. I'll replace everything when the business recovers." She remained silent. He tried again. "I have no one else to ask." Still she refused. "I can't." "But why?" "Because they're mine." Fanabushan looked at her. For the first time, he realized that her love for those jewels might be stronger than her love for him. He didn't become angry. That was not his nature. Instead, he simply walked away. A few days passed. His financial situation became worse. His relatives advised him to take stronger action. Some told him to force his wife to hand over the jewelry. Others told him to send her back to her family. But Fanabushan could not bring himself to hurt her. He loved her too much. Meanwhile, Manamalika became increasingly nervous. She began imagining thieves everywhere. Every sound at night frightened her. Every unfamiliar face seemed suspicious. Finally, she decided that she could no longer remain in the house. She wanted to go to her father's home, but she was afraid of leaving her jewelry behind. She needed someone to help her. She found a relative named Madhusudan. He was not a wealthy man, but he knew how valuable Manamalika's jewelry was. He listened carefully when she told him about her fears. "Take the jewelry with you," he advised. "But how?" "Don't tell your husband." Manamalika hesitated. Then she agreed. One night, she secretly packed every piece of jewelry she owned. Necklaces, bangles, earrings, rings, everything. She wrapped them carefully and prepared to leave. But before she could go, something unexpected happened. Fanabushan returned home. He had decided to leave for a few days. He wanted to try one last time to save his business. He looked at Manamalika. She looked at him. Neither spoke. There was something strange about the silence between them. Fanabushan finally said, "I'll be back soon." Manamalika simply nodded. He left. And that night, Manamalika disappeared. No one knew exactly what happened after that. Some people said she went to her father's house. Others said she never reached there. And when Fanabushan returned, she was gone. So were all the jewels. He searched everywhere. He sent people to her relatives. He questioned the boatmen. He searched the roads. He even searched the river. Nothing. No Manamalika. No jewelry. No explanation. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. And eventually, people began whispering that Manamalika had died. But Fanabushan refused to believe it. He waited. He waited for years. Then one evening something happened. The house was completely silent. Fanabushan was sitting alone when he heard a strange sound. First it sounded like footsteps, very faint, coming from the hallway. He stood up. The footsteps stopped. Then he heard something else. A soft metallic sound, like bangles touching one another. He froze. The sound came closer. Step, step, step. Then silence. He opened the door. Nobody was there. He looked down the hallway. Empty. He returned to his room. But the sound came again. This time it was closer. The soft clinking of jewelry. The sound seemed to move through the house. And then Fanabushan heard something that made his blood run cold. A woman's voice. very faint, calling his name. Fanny Bushin. He stood completely still. The voice came again. Fanny Bushin. He knew that voice. It was Mana Malika. But Mana Malika was dead. At least that's what everyone believed. He stepped into the hallway. The house was dark. At the far end of the corridor stood a woman. Her face was hidden in the shadows. Her body was covered in a sari, and around her neck hung the jewelry. Fanny Bushin couldn't move. The woman slowly lifted her face. He recognized her. Moni. She didn't answer. Instead, she began walking toward him. The sound of her jewelry echoed through the silent house. Clink, clink, clink. Fanny Bushin stepped backward. The woman came closer and closer. Then suddenly, the lights went out. When the servants came running, they found Fanny Bushin unconscious on the floor. There was no woman, no footprints, no open door, nothing. But from that night onward, Fanny Bushin was never the same. The schoolteacher stopped speaking. For several seconds, neither of us said anything. The river was completely dark now. I finally asked, "Is that the whole story?" He looked at me. "No. What happened to Fanny Bushin?" The teacher lowered his voice. "That's where the real mystery begins." I waited. He continued. Because 3 days later, Fanny Bushin disappeared. Disappeared? Yes. Where did he go? No one knows. Did he leave the village? Perhaps. Did he die? Perhaps. Then how can you say he saw Mana Malika? The teacher smiled strangely. Because someone else saw her too. I felt a chill run through me. Who? The teacher pointed toward the abandoned mansion. That is what you will have to decide for yourself. He stood up. Then he walked away into the darkness. I remained sitting beside the river. Behind me stood the old mansion. In front of me was the dark river. And somewhere between those two worlds, I began to wonder whether Mana Malika had really disappeared, or whether she had simply been waiting for someone to come back for her. That night, I decided to stay in the old mansion. I had no idea that before sunrise, I would hear the same sound Fanny Bushin had heard, the sound of jewelry, slowly approaching through the darkness.